Of day market recap for Tuesday, July 2nd. We are now through the second trading day of the month. And so far, I think price is kind of living up to the seasonality so far. So far, right? It's only the second trading day of the month, but it's been quieter, obviously lesser volume in a holiday week, but it just feels like there's a little bit of a grind going on in the market. So risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. First things always that I always do in these videos is talk about, where the indices are, whether they're showing some strength, weakness, whether they're at resistance, what's going on with them. And then, of course, what I'll do is I'll look at some sectors, which you can kind of see, like you already can kind of formulate a little bit of an opinion. There was more things that went up today. If you remember from yesterday's video, there was more red, like on the this, like from this down. Well, maybe I'm being dramatic, but this far down, I think was showing more red, and there's only a few green areas. So, a little bit better today in terms of participation, but ultimately, some things just continue to trend and look pretty good. Before I get into any of that and going over some charts, I just wanted to bring this up to you as I mentioned it yesterday too, is that we are running a second half of the year special. So here it is, right? And here's just a quick summary. I'm just going to run through this really quickly with you, but I think this is a great opportunity, and we're doing this at a very cheap price. It's $500 for 6 months, right? And you get the combination, so we bundled two things together, so you get two things for basically more than the price of one, because this is cheap. But you get the trading system that I use, which is based on volume at price, right? It's another level, so if you've heard of Anchor VWAP, or if you use volume profile, this is taking it to the next level, right? It's much more. It's fairly easy to use. It's not subjective like Anchor VWAPs are, right? You don't have to pick and choose where you anchor something, right? You've got something that will also tell you where there's overhead supply, such as version point of controls, and it's a pretty darn good system. And you get 6 months to basically try it out. And I would say it's better than trying it out for like a week or two, because I think you need a little bit more time to kind of grasp different concepts. So you get 6 months of that, and you get the trading room where you could basically ask questions. A lot of the members of Tribeca Trade Group use the market webs, so you can kind of get a feel for that, right? And then, of course, you get things like every day I do daily market commentary. I do a weekend video, weekend watch list, which I'll show you how that's performing and how that works. I use Bloomberg API, so it's marked to market all time. Same thing with my open positions, which you do see when I send out a midday note. I send out charts on every new position that I get into, so you get the rationale behind why I'm going into a swing trade, and upside targets or support, stop levels, all of that. And that also goes into our open reviews. And we also get the TTG trend portfolio, which is a longer term strategy with trend, about 50 names. I operate it basically like an ETF. So that all comes included. I think that's a pretty darn good deal for $500 for 6 months. You can just go to this link right here. I will retweet this after the video so that you can find it a little bit easier, but this was tweeted. You could just go along my timeline 2 days ago. So that said, let's get into the price action. And Q's led. I mean, this has kind of been a little bit of a pattern, right? And by the way, so if you want to see what's been going on, I love this little feature that you can do in terms of looking at for relationships, right? You just put one over the other, right? So this is Q's over SPY, right? You can see how this has been outperforming now for a while, and it helps, I think, to even see on the weekly chart, right? This is just how much strength the Q's have, right? And this is basically, so this is the beginning of the year where I've got the cursor here. This is all year long that the Qs have been really outperforming. When is that going to stop? When is this outperforming the Qs relationship going to stop? I can't tell you. It's a trend, and the trend, no one knows how long a trend is going to last. Right now, it's just really trending. And then the other one that's really alarming is when you look at the Qs in IWM, right? That has really been pushing higher. So that's where the strength is. And now let's just break it down by some individual stock charts. So first of all, let's move back to the daily chart. One of the things I want to just put in your perspective, right? And this, talking about when the market got overbought, which was in the middle of June, right? And then since and the RSI got super overbought, about an 80, right? And we know that with indices, different than single stocks, indices don't stay that overbought for long, and then they usually burn off those overbought levels. Well, that's basically been going on for the last couple of weeks, and I think that overall that's not a bad thing. That's not a weak market. It's a fact, going higher, getting overbought, and consolidating those gains without a major pullback, I think is pretty darn bullish. And so we're starting to try to resolve higher, right? And again, I look for clues on the 1 hour chart, right? And we did make it through the value area. Remember last Friday, we got rejected right at that breakout point. And that's, due to portfolio rebalancing, which was heavy for sale on Friday. So I don't know. I think we're out of the woods in terms of all those rebalances, and the market looks like it wants to push higher. The Qs, as I've already mentioned, are showing that relative outperformance, right? And they're right at the top of value for the month. Right. So again, one of the things I mentioned is like, hey, maybe price needs to wait for this 20-day moving average to catch up. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, right? Nothing, it doesn't work that way in terms of, oh, well, this would make sense, so this is going to happen. Market will do whatever it wants to do, and as always, you have to be prepared for that. But kind of the same thing. This got super overbought. It was at 82 RSI when it was here, consolidated, and now trying to resume the uptrend. Watch this 487.16, right? And this did get through. I tweeted this out a couple times today, which was the 1 hour value area, because we got pretty rejected. This is where we closed yesterday, and then we kind of sold off during the after hours. So that wouldn't be a bad thing. Again, scenario analysis. Number one, we could continue to go higher in the after hours, or we could kind of break down a little bit like we did yesterday in the after hours. And even if we pushed back and retested that, I think that's a pretty good setup too to have in mind. All right, bonds. Right, we talk about how rates have been moving higher. You had a little bit of a move back today in bonds, not retracing too much of the move, but if you go back to the spreadsheet, you can see that bonds were up almost 1% for the day. Now again, it's kind of a blip on the screen, because this has been selling off pretty decently over the last couple of days. So even though that's normally a decent move, the selling pressure has been much bigger the last couple of days. All right, so that's kind of just a quick review. The dollar was down a little bit. The VIX is all the way down to like almost the 11 handle at this point, which is pretty crazy to me. Small caps did okay, but underperformed. And then of course we look at what performed well today. Look at the semis. They were the biggest area that went up after the open today. So they rallied the most out of any group that I've got on my spreadsheet from the open. Now, of course, consumer discretionary did better than that, because Tesla's in there, and Tesla did a lot of the rallied pre-market pretty decently. So up 2%. So these areas, let's take a look at them. Now, when you look at XLY, you have to remember that you've got two big companies that are responsible for a good portion of the game of the performance in this, and that's Amazon, which I think is around 23%, and then you've got Tesla, which I think is around 13 or 15% of the ETF. So you put those two together, and that's about 40% of your ETF. And consumer discretionary is trying to break out. Now, it would be nice if some other names kind of joined in this. Here's what the performance was for today. Right, let's bring up this. Right, obviously you've got Tesla, which was up 10%. You got a couple other names in there. Etsy, Orly was up today. Airbnb was up. GPC. You had some strength in some auto names today. Interesting. Not just Tesla and Rivian, which had good gains, but a couple of the auto parts group was particularly strong today too. But of course, that was strong. You can see Amazon is about ninth down in terms of that. So let's talk about those two names first. And I spent a lot of time in yesterday's video talking about Tesla. I was so obviously a big day today, like up 10%. And this is the weekly chart. We're making our way through the value area for the year. bullish 80% rule. So ultimately, I'm looking for a move up to 275. I know it's difficult to read on your screen, but it is 275. And I don't think it gets there in a straight line, but I also thought it might, we might see some type of a check back if the delivery numbers were lighter than expected, but they weren't. And this, raged. So I still have a position on. I didn't add any more to it, which I would have liked to. I was all set after those delivery numbers if they were lighter to do that. But hey, this is super strong. So I want to say congrats to the Tesla longs. Here is the signal, in my opinion, using volume at price, right? And this is the market webs telling you what's relevant here. And there was no question. I mean, look at the difference in volume too, as this broke into the value area. Right, very, very strong, and is kept on going there for Tesla. Also, I just wanted to bring up Rivian as well. Rivian had this big move, right, when they announced that Volkswagen has a deal with them. So they kind of sat back a little bit. They sold off, hit this virgin point of control. So overhead supply, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, right? We knew exactly where that was, but the pullback wasn't that deep, right? We kind of just came back to this moving average, and we're right around 15 bucks. And I like this chart. I think you have to be patient, but I think overall, I think it's shaping up. Right, and here's what this looks like on the longer term, right? So break into the value area as well for the year on that weekly chart. Amazon, what can you say? So here's the thing, I know, and I've been complaining about this too, right? When we look at market breadth for the day, these are 4-week new highs. These are 52-week highs. Now the S&P is still there's still more 52-week highs, right? So that's good, right? But when we look at 4-week highs, which is, 1 month new highs, right? You're still getting a lot more new lows. There's 19% of the index today made a new new 4-week low, versus only 8% made a new high today. So there are a lot more names that are that have been going down. Now, so why does the market keep going higher when you've got more names in the index making new lows? Well, because it's names like Amazon that are making a new high. It's got your bigger names are acting wonderfully right now. They're shallow pullbacks, they're trending, right? And that's kind of what you want to see. So it's a little bit of, it's like a tale of two different markets going on. You've got weakness under the hood, but the leaders are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're leading, right? And I don't think that there's it's tough to complain about that. Your bigger companies are leading, right? And again, they're the top weights in the ETFs for a reason, right? Because they're the largest companies. How do you get to be a large company? Well, because you get to be a leader. And so it's really tough to complain about that. Google, remember, had that downgrade last week, is over that and is now almost back to new highs. That was another dip to be bought. Microsoft is out to new highs, right? And not Rivian, but Nvidia is still kind of, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with this. It's just kind of digesting, right? Again, it made such a monster move. It's letting people kind of forget about it a little bit, right? And then it will probably then it will be probably get more interest. But for now, it's in a digestion time frame. But there's other names that are acting pretty well. Broadcom, right, has started to move up the last couple of days. That looks pretty positive. Texas Instruments, right, this is a name that I got long today. I really like the consolidation, right? Again, nothing wrong with this. Really strong move on earnings. Really, really rallied. Went sideways for a bit, about a month, shaking people out here and there, and look at the move today, right outside of a very thin value area. So this is the equivalent. A lot of people talk about when there's like coiling with the moving averages, when 3 moving averages are wrapped around one another, usually a big move ends up happening, right? Same thing here when you've got a very slim value area. Usually there's tight price action, and usually there could be a decent move out of that. Another one that I find interesting is this AMSC, right? Another very strong semiconductor. Digestion down to the 20-day moving average. with the 5-day moving average kind of crunching in here together. And look at the squeeze out of that, right? And also staying inside the value area for the month of July, which is important, right? That shows some strength too, right? So I have to say I like this name as well, right? And there's a number of other semiconductors that acted well today too, right? Here's what the whole ETF looks like. Whoops, that's the wrong, that's a typo. It's not what it looks like. But again, I don't, this started, it tried to go on Friday, but there was just too much selling pressure with the pension fund selling and portfolio rebalancing and all of that. But this looks pretty, this looks pretty darn good, and a nice green bar. As I mentioned, it was one of the best performing groups from the open today. Also, look at this group, right? What's this group doing in here? The banks. So if you watched yesterday's video, I went through about 4 or 5 sectors that are all going sideways, right? I talked about like XLV, right, which is healthcare. There's a lot of these sectors that are just like, I don't want to call them dead money, but they're kind of like, for now, they've been dead money for like the last 3 or 4 months. They're not doing anything, right? We talked about industrials too. At least industrials came back a little bit, but I don't view this as a very constructive looking chart. I view it's hanging on for dear life right here. But look at the financials, right? Nice green bar today. Maybe this is the start of a move. If you go through some of the components, look at JP Morgan has been a rocket ship since they announced the capital structure stuff, the buyback for next year, as well as increase of the dividend. Very strong. Bank of America had a nice day today. Again, sorry, that's the wrong symbol. Still the wrong symbol. There we go. I'm having a issue with my keyboard. So the letter B doesn't come in. I have to hammer the B key to get that to go, but that's a whole nother situation. Bank of America, nice breakout. Let's see how it handles that virgin point of control. I remain long Goldman. Goldman is a little bit slower. Remember, like it held that 50-day like a champ about a week ago, and since then has been moving higher. Morgan Stanley, another one, also constructive. Citigroup, looking pretty decent there as well. All right, so not bad. Another one that's not exactly it's not a bank, it's exchange stock. Ice Baby, breaking out to new highs. This is an exchange stock. Very nice. And again, like this is not a bad looking pattern, right? Kind of an inverted head and shoulder, big inverted head and shoulders look. Maybe trying to break that neckline and push higher. I mentioned the watch list, right? So you could see quite a bit of names that were green on our list. Look at ARM today. Actually had a good day. I did not catch that one today. Can't be in every trade. Have to pick and choose, but still acting pretty well. Found support at around the 20-day moving average, and had a real nice day today. Kava was up a little bit. Broadcom, which we already went over. A few other names, new names, Core Z. This is more of a momentum name. I tweeted this name out. Let's see if it can really blast off here. Some of these names have been doing that. Watch this 1018 level. Again, smaller cap, higher momentum type name. ASPN is a name I'm watching. I put on the watch list, right? Even though the home builders have been horrible, right? This is a name that's been going in the like a building construction name, right? They do like installation and things like that, right? I know, kind of boring, but I would watch this level for tomorrow, see if it could turn the corner here. 2419. Why am I looking at this name? Because it had really good earnings, right? For a while, it just kept on going higher and higher. Once it broke, it didn't hold its 20-day moving average. It broke down, but it's worth kind of keeping a couple different names on your watch list, in my opinion. All right. Costco had a nice day today. How could it be, it would be un-American, in my opinion, if Costco did not go up around, the 4th of July. Speaking of the 4th of July, I'm going to cut the video off a little bit earlier today. Guys, thanks for watching. Have a great 4th of July. Reminder, tomorrow's a half a day. I'll be working a couple hours tomorrow, and that's it. But I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe 4th of July. And then, of course, markets are open again on Friday, where we've got the monthly jobs report. Have a great night, everybody.